911, what's your emergency?
The following content is graphic, emotional, and includes dark humor that may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised, explicit content included. These stories are based on real-life EMS and first responder experiences. The calls are real, the providers are real. Names and patient details have been changed to protect privacy. Episodes may include trauma, suicide, abuse, medical emergencies, mental health struggles, or things your HR department would definitely not approve of. Any advice, opinions, or discussion of medical procedures are based on personal experience and should never override your local protocols, medical direction, or training. Use your damn brain. Follow your guidelines and your local or agency protocols. Follow your training. And when in doubt, call Med Control. Most importantly, if you're struggling, don't do it alone. Talk to someone, a coworker, a friend, a therapist. Or hell, reach out to me. I'll answer. Need help right now? Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org.
You're listening to Dispatch and Dysfunctional, where chaos has a pulse and the quiet after a call is sometimes the loudest sound in the room. Today's guest has carried weight in more uniforms than most of us will ever wear. Johnnie Gilpen is a pediatric emergency medicine PA at OU Health Children's in Oklahoma City, a nationally registered paramedic, a Tillman Scholar, a War Horse Riding Fellow, a longtime CBRNE instructor with FEMA's Center for Domestic Preparedness, a researcher, an epidemiologist, an author, a veteran of the U.S. Navy as a corpsman, and he was decorated for valor and service. He's also on a mission to remind people they belong, especially when they're not so sure. Johnnie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I gave your highlight reel, but nobody tells your story like you. For listeners meeting you for the first time, who is Johnnie Gilpen? And if they remembered one thing from this conversation, what would you want it to be?
If you're gonna hurt, might as well hurt doing cool shit.
Hey, if you ain't doing cool shit and you ain't gonna die doing it, then what the hell's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
So picture this: a corpsman treating Marines under fire, and years later, the same hand starting compressions on a toddler. Two different wars, same patient, the human nervous system, and under threat. The sounds change, the stakes don't. That's the terrain Johnnie lives in. From FMF to pediatric emergency, from CBRNE classrooms to disaster teams, from riding through the dark to teaching others to stand back up. Johnnie, you've worked both ends of the spectrum, battlefield medicine and pediatric emergency. What did the transition really teach you about resilience?
Well, we'll start back up. My time in the Navy was pre 9/11. So I don't have some of the experiences a lot of these guys do. I'll be 55 in May, so I'm a little bit older. That changes a little bit. But I always say taking care of kids is like taking care of Marines again, except for the kids don't cry as much and they don't need as many crayons. But the mentality is about the same. Kids don't know they're broke. They keep going until they keep going. As far as resiliency, it's I love the job now. The two greatest jobs I've had in the world are being a Navy corpsman and now being a pediatric emergency medicine PA. When I was a corpsman, back then, I was 24, 25, 26, 27 years old at the time. Prior to my 25th birthday, I was having a lot of fun. We were flying in helicopters I was with 1st Platoon, Golf Company, 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines. It was a helo assault company. We did a lot of cool stuff. We were just having fun. We did a lot of drinking beer. I mean, we did a lot of other stuff. And I also was a rodeo clown at the Onslow Rodeo Arena and a few other places. So it was a good time. And I'll be honest, I was a mediocre corpsman. I did what I had to do. I took classes as I came along, but I really didn't do, I wasn't picking up a book every night. I wasn't reading extra material. I just did, hey, this is what they told us to do. I learned the basics and essentials. And this is pre-TCCC, all of that. So, when we talk about that, I wasn't the guy before. The guy now is two different people. That all changed on May 9, 10, 1996. 4 days before my 25th birthday, we lost 14 guys. We lost 12 Marines, a fellow corpsman, and one of our Army staff sergeant.
Damn.
And I was involved in that, in the rescue of that. And, it took me 20 years to come to the full realization that we saved the two people that we could have saved, and that God has a bigger hand in that aspect of it. Matter of fact, right at the 20 years, I woke up and said, hey, time to try to move on with this aspect. But I knew it, and down in my heart, I knew it, but there was that side of me that said, you should have done more. You could have done more. You need to do more. You could have done a better job if you would have been better prepared. If you'd have known more.
Gotcha.
You can just take that however you want to take it.
That self-doubt always gets to you.
Yeah.
The imposter,
it
will.
That moral injury, I think, as medics, corpsmen, doctors, however, we're in a little different. I talk about when I've talked with, Marines and soldiers and other people who are more the shooters, the guys that pull the trigger versus the medics on, it's a different concept of guilt. Those guys, they came home, others didn't. We're working on people. And I think, and the worst part about it is that you're working on people that these were my friends, people you knew. And then the other hard part is that people we saved weren't people that I knew. The two pilots that we pulled out, I didn't know them. I'd never met them before in my life. I might have seen them walking through the galley, or down one of the hallways in the ship or something.
Right.
But I couldn't save the people that I knew. And so that was a huge problem for me. And I didn't realize my lungs got as burnt as they did for a while. My lungs got burnt really bad. A lot of the smoke and stuff from that.
Oh.
Has caused me a lot of health issues since down the road.
Right.
But I think that drove me to the point where I am today. Is that after that, I started, matter of fact, on that float, I went back to school, started taking classes. I was like, wanted to go back to school, whether I went to medical school or PA school or something. For the first PAs were Navy corpsmen. The whole PA profession started from combat medics and medics. The first three were Navy PAs. Started in that's where the whole profession came from.
That's interesting. I'd never heard that one.
Yeah, originally started, the first program was in Duke. And so the first three graduated in 1967, I believe, is the first three. There was four. One of them dropped out, and all three were Navy corpsmen. And so in the Navy, they talk to you about how good you are. They build you up, and a lot of medics get out thinking, hey, we're this great. We're almost PAs. We're really good, and we're really good in a subset of people. Most of our population is 18 to the majority, 18 to 30. A few others are older, but they're healthy. Well, they have no heart problems, no diabetes, but we're dealing in this subset. We're like paramedics. Paramedics probably even better than corpsmen, but we're really good under the gun. But from there, I branched out, got my EMT license in North Carolina, started doing more and more. And then I started teaching. They always say those who teach do. No, I don't believe that. I believe that people start teaching. The more you teach, the better you are, because to teach other people, you have to learn the material and you keep going. And, some of the best teachers I know are the guys who are on the job.
Right.
So you just get out there and you learn and learn and more. And it just, over the years, it's just continued. But there came a point where I needed to take a break. And when I was trying to get a job when I got back out of the Navy, doing some things, and I couldn't get a job and go to school at the same time. So I started working in the lab, got some other stuff going, and I was in school and I got a bioterrorism and emerging infectious disease fellowship when I was in school. So that kind of got me into the epidemiology. When I was in the service, I got to experience some interesting stuff, and just somebody said something, I would say yes, and I would just take a class back and forth. I never said no. I always tell people when I was in PA school, I went back at 46, and I was the oldest person in the College of Medicine. And somebody said, "What advice would you give somebody?" And I said, "Well, take a class, whatever class it is. It doesn't matter. Just take it, especially if it's free. 10 years from now, you won't remember probably anything that you took in that class. But if you take the time to go to lunch or dinner and introduce yourself and be there with the people that are there, it's about the relationships. My wife hates we can't go somewhere in a plane that I don't know somebody. Part of that's teaching at the center, at the CDP there in Anniston. I've trained thousands of first responders. But the deal is that somebody will remember, hey, Johnnie is doing this, or Mike is doing this, or Tom is doing this, or Alicia or Lisa or Leslie. And they'll go, hey guys, I got this project. You want to be involved in it?
Right.
And that just,
network
cycles down the road. Yeah, network. It's all about who you know.
Yes, sir.
And so, but that resiliency that I learned, I don't know if it's so much as resiliency that at the time I didn't see it as resiliency. I just said, I'm not going to ever be in that situation again. And then another situation arose and I said, well, I'm not going to be in that situation again. And so it just kept driving me. And then when I was working at the CDP, they found out I was a medic, and it just, things just kept piecing together. Hey, can you do this? Can you do this? So, yeah. And I always wanted to go back to PA school. I applied 4 times. It took me 4 times over 20 years to get in. I was told that I couldn't get in because I was a vet. They told me that with my experience, it has changed now from being veterans to like less than 2% being veterans.
Oh, wow.
There's a really big push in how we're perceived in academia, especially at that level, where we're looked at, we have a defect,
right?
The PTSD and stuff. Same way with paramedics. A lot of those, they look at them. They want most of my PA students now are 25, 26-year-old. Majority of them are females. Where people were coming originally, it was a mid-career change. Now it's people just coming straight out of college and going forward. And, I told them, I said, well, what about my experience? And they said, well, I can get people the experience you have. I can't get you to pass the test. Well, here I am. I'm currently on the board of directors for the Oklahoma Academy of PAs. So, so I take those things, use the fuel that God gives you,
That's awesome.
I figure, I have this concept of fuel. Fuel can be 3 things. You can do 3 things with it. One, you can just let it set, like you put it in your lawnmower over the winter or your boat and don't use it. And then especially if it's biofuel, ethanol, it'll break down. And then when you try to use your lawnmower in the next spring, well, it won't start. It's gummed up the carburetors and you've wasted that fuel.
Yep.
2, you can carry it around in 5-gallon cans, and then you can pour it on everything and burn it to ashes, which a lot of people do. Right. And then you've wasted, both what you pour it on and 2, those relationships. Or, I'm Wile E. Coyote, that picture of him riding the rocket, you can ride it to the moon. I just tell people, just don't buy your rockets from Acme.
Right. And that's honestly a good way to look at it too, is because if you do let your fuel burn out, or you burn the bridges that you have, or any of that stuff, you're not able to mend it as easily, and it causes a bunch more tension, a lot more mental anguish on yourself than originally thought.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
So the resiliency, I mean, it kind of comes in, it's kind of how we got here to this whole resiliency program. Wasn't anywhere where I thought it was going to be, or wasn't looking to be here. Never really thought about it like that. Started looking at it during the pandemic. Working in the pandemic, it was I started my emergency medicine fellowship March 20th or March 1st of 2020.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so what a time to start, right?
I was on the ambulance at that time, and I hated it.
You understand.
That's what drove me to offshore. Is I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this pandemic shit no more. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and so that's kind of when the pandemic was over. That's what drove me to pediatrics. I needed something good in my life,
right?
So I just kind of needed a change. So that's where I've been. And so I started running. My only time away from myself was, my running. That was where I could get away from people. I listened to David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, 14 times over the pandemic, the whole audiobook. That was what I had. So it was my time to get away. But so we kind of started this concept of, Embrace Your Struggle, which is what's going to be the title of my upcoming podcast. But 2 years ago, and coming up will be 3 years this coming February, March timeframe, we lost 6 kids in about a 3 to 4 week time frame.
Damn, sorry.
Yeah, it's like it is what it is. Right. We're the level 1 trauma center. We're the only pediatric. So it's like Marines and sailors go down, range airmen. Sometimes they don't come home, and kids come in the ER, and sometimes they don't leave. But there was just some that was really hard that, when they come like that group, and there was just some that really stood out to us. And one of my docs, one of my attendings, is a good friend of mine. We just worked this kid. It was a 4-year-old asthma kid. Kids are not supposed to die from asthma, but he was, had really bad asthma, multiple PICU admits prior to that. Anyway, we did what we could for over an hour, and it just didn't work out like we wanted it to.
Right.
And, it just hit hard. You could tell just sitting back looking, I'm older. And one of the things I'm seeing now post pandemic, you're starting to see things in healthcare workers, ambulance, first responders, that we're seeing in vets post pandemic, because now we're 5 years from the beginning. So we're seeing the downstream effects about the same time frame that we saw stuff in veterans.
Yes, sir.
But the difference is, even as bad as the VA is, there's still some help out there. Vets are their own worst enemy. I won't tell you, but there are some, and it's location dependent what's out there.
Yeah,
but
I'm from a military family, so I understand that 100%.
Yeah, but so one of the docs, he was sitting there, and you could see he has that look on his face where, after something goes like you don't want it, and you're playing it back and forth in your head, you're fast forward, back, rewind, fast forward, back, rewind. He was just, kind of had, I won't say defeated look on his face, but just this look. We've all seen it, and it doesn't matter whether you're in healthcare or law enforcement or just a parent. Something bad goes wrong, you're trying to redo it, or just at your job. And I walked up to him and I told him, I said, "We did it right." He said, "What?" I said, "We did it right." I said, "I don't think there's anything else we could have done." I said, "Sometimes there are larger powers at play." And I said, you can do everything right, but when the man upstairs or whoever you want to call, whatever your power, whatever you,
the higher power
deem,
upstairs, right?
Yeah, whatever you deem, says it's time to come home, and your page turns. That's what it is. And he asked me, he said, "How are you still doing this?" I said, "Doing what?" He said, this. He said, "This is my 30th year." And at that time, it was my 28th year in doing medicine, some form or fashion. And I said, "Well, I don't do it very well. Ask my wife. I'm an absolute mess." And he said, "You're still here." And so it's back into my shift. I went home, and the next couple of weeks, Bennett just ate on me. Because what he was asking, you think about it. One, I'm a vet, I'm a first responder, and I work in the ER as a advanced practice provider.
Yes, sir.
You hear 22 a day from vets. You hear 1% of all first responders all suicides are first responders. 58% are cops. I think 21% are fire, 18 are EMS, and roughly 2% are dispatchers.
Yes, sir.
And then we lose 1%, one physician a day, one to suicide, twice as likely to be a female. PAs somewhere in there, nurse practitioners, pharmacists are really high, So we lose.
That's a new one to me.
Yeah, pharmacists are really, really high because the deal is they can't go get a lot of states. If they get mental health help, they lose their license because they have the keys to the candy box, right?
That does make sense. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very horrible ideology, but
it is what it is.
Right. Yeah. It does make sense at the time, so.
And that's the one nice thing about me being an epidemiologist. I'm pretty good at my numbers, get your facts straight and manipulate them how you want them, as Mark Twain said. So I went, a couple weeks when I went back to him, we sat down and talked, and I said, "Doc, there's three things that make me why I'm still here." And I said, "I'm not any stronger than those people that we lost." And, I lost a good friend, end of March. I know, and he was a retired Oklahoma Highway patrolman. He was a paramedic. He'd been on the disaster response team, the RIMS team with us. Oklahoma has a ambulance strike team / response team called RIMS. I said, but probably weaker, but I said, I have three factors in my life that make me different than everybody else. And I said, one is my faith in God. I said, now, I grew up Methodist, so I'm a really, bad Methodist, but my wife's got me going to a Baptist church, so I'm an even worse Baptist. I'm not in church every Sunday. I'm the, a friend of mine said he was going to make me have to go back through membership training because I'd been gone so long, not coming on a regular basis. So, but that doesn't mean my faith. I've seen enough in my lifetime, that there is something greater than us out there. That's so true. Number two is that I have a Rolodex, and when I teach a certain age group, I have to show pictures of what a Rolodex is because they don't know what a Rolodex is. But I have things. Yeah. So I have this big, plethora of friends that I can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I know somebody's going to pick up the phone. And if they have to drive or they were calling somebody else, and somebody's going to be there to pick up the phone, and it's a reciprocal relationship. They know that they can call me and I'm going to do the same for them. So that's that's the Foxhole Principle we talk about. And then the third thing is that tools. One of the best tools, my dad was a Vietnam vet. He died at 55 from Agent Orange cancer almost 23 years ago. But when I first came home after we lost those Marines in training, and like I said, I wasn't in the wars like, we talk about combat medicine and stuff like right. The 9/11 guys, but we lost those good friends of mine, and we were involved in the rescue and stuff and their recovery.
Still hard on you, though.
It is. It is. And he said, don't talk about it. When I came home right after it happened, he said, don't talk about it. He said, civilians, he said, they won't understand. They'll ask you, but he said, they don't care. And they really won't ever understand. But about when he got sick, that was in 96. He got sick in 97, maybe. I think October 97. So about 18 months later. And so I came home and he said, come on, you're going with me. And we went to the Veterans Readjustment Center, and I didn't know where we were going. I didn't even know what it was. And I remember he said, we got done with that. And I said, why are we here? And he said, don't wait 30 years to unload stuff that, and make it affect your family and whatnot, like I did. So I have been involved in the Veterans Readjustment Center, some way, form, or fashion, not so much now, but it's changed a little bit since the pandemic. But prior to the pandemic, or groups or other veteran groups, the Tillman Foundation has kind of taken that place. But learning tools, learning that a hammer is not just for driving nails or tearing up shit.
Right.
So, and then he asked me, so when we got done with that conversation, he said, can you think you could put that into a class for me? And I said, yeah, sure. Teddy Roosevelt said, if somebody asks you to do something, tell them yes, sir, and then figure out how to do it later. And so we sat down and started working on it. And during the pandemic, or prior to the pandemic, I got to be good friends over the last 8 years now, 7 years with Jeff Evans. Jeff, if you get a chance, Jeff B. Evans, look him up.
Okay.
He's an emergency medicine PA, mountain guide, national known speaker. But his best friend is Eric Weimeyer. Eric's first blind guy to ever climb Mount Everest. And Jeff is one of the guides who took him. And him and Eric and Jeff have climbed El Capitan. They've done all kinds of crazy things. Came in second in one of the these races through the Morocco and some other stuff. So anyway, they started a program called No Barriers, which is originally was Soldiers to Summits, about getting veterans out into the wilderness, helping guys get out, whether they had a visual, a actual visual, physical, amputees or whatever, or a invisible disability, PTSD, whatnot. That now it's turned into No Barriers, where it's anybody, not just veterans, but they still have a Warriors program.
That's awesome.
During that program, it was based off of things that Eric had created, vision, rope teams, summits, stuff that I create. And so we were working on this, and it was a great program, very geared towards veterans though, but still a great program that they did, because we didn't have any contact. It was all done online.
Oh, wow.
And so I had reached out to Eric. We were hiking for a program to raise money for the foundation. And I asked Eric, I said, can I take this program? And I said, can I use it and adapt it to healthcare workers and first responders? And he said, yeah, do whatever you need to do. Jeff said, yeah, you can do it. And so what we did with it, and I think I got a copy here. I'd be surprised if I thought I had a copy laying here. Hang on just one second. Sorry.
You're good.
It's on Amazon right now. You can buy it's a workbook, but
Okay.
But
The Art of Medicine. Okay.
Art of Medicine, the program is now divided into 4-hour programs. The book ended up being, when it was done, 8 hours, broke up into 2 books, and it was 2 4-hour classes, and we've got CEUs and everything for it. It's grown beyond what I thought it would be. And it's been, so we're getting it out there to people across the country working on getting it out there and stuff. And so that's kind of where I'm at now, is in getting the message out there and, talking about how, letting guys know there's things and tools. A lot of guys get out there and they talk, and there's amazing speakers out there, and you go to classes. But one of the things I hate about classes is that they just talk.
Right.
They don't give you any tools to walk away with. Right.
That you can't really get much impact from it because they're the ones talking. You can't really talk back.
Yeah. And this is a whole class is about, well, what am I going to do? How do I learn things? And so a couple of things in the class that we do is, one of the things is that during David Goggins, first of all, we talk about, well, what are your summits? If I ask you to write down the 10 things that you regretted in your life, you wish you had done, most people can do that in 5 minutes, right?
Right.
I say, well, if I ask you the 6 Rocky moments in your life, the minute and 45 seconds of greatest television in the world to me is when Rocky's down, on the ground, and, Mickey's going, stay down, Rock, don't, and he crawls up that ropes and turns around, and the look on Apollo Creed's face, because he thinks he's won. And then all of a sudden he turns around and, well, damn, my moment was when I got back into PA school, and then when I graduated, and that guy who told me I would never graduate, I walked in and he saw me at my first PA, and then now he has to see me
every day.
He saw me. Well, now he saw me this last. I'm a board member, so he saw me at the last meeting in September, and he saw me, and he wouldn't even come up to congratulate me. He turned around and walked the other way. So anyway,
on that note, sorry to interrupt you, but on that note is a lot of us in EMS and medical are always told, you won't ever make it that far. You won't ever do this. You won't ever do that. And you are the example. You proved so many people wrong, and I think a lot of other people can do that. Hell, I've proved people wrong. I was told I would never go offshore. I would never be an advanced practice medic. I'm there now. I love it. And the fact of the people that tell you can't do it are normally scared or intimidated by you. And that's issues, and that's something I think a lot of first responders should be aware of as well, because there is no end game in the end. You can only go as high as you want to go.
The only limitation is your imagination and yourself.
Yes, sir.
I always even in medicine, emergency medicine, combat medicine, whatever is, your only limitation is your imagination. Like we figure out how to do stuff, figure it out. I work with residents every day, PA students, they laugh at me because I have a set of lights that I got from Snap-on and Matco that are headlights that I use for suturing. I have a set of side dike pliers for cutting fish hooks out, but I also have a set that are made just for plastic, for cutting plastic off. On the adult side, certain people like to put certain plates in certain places that don't need to be in.
Well, those are always fun calls, and I'm sure you want that.
Yeah. But one of the, on the summit aspect, so we start asking people in the class to write down 3 or the 6 of those Rocky moments. And then we highlight, their summits. My buddy draws all our cartoons, and we ask them when, where, why, who you're with, what was significant about it, what obstacles did you overcome, and then why. Who are your haters? David Goggins says all of his comments that he gets on Facebook and social media, he dictates them into an MP3, and then that's what he runs to every day, all his haters. I was like, that's pretty ingenious.
Right.
And so the other thing he does is that he says he has this mental cookie jar, and I was running during the pandemic, and I was thinking about it. And he says, he has these Rocky moments in his life that he can, when he's down, he's beat, he can mentally pull them out, and that's what he thinks about. Well, I don't have that blame it on my TBI or whatever you want to. I don't have that ability. So I actually went to the store and bought me an actual cookie jar. And, a cookie jar is clear, right?
Right.
And the cookie jar is a good thing. My daughter, we talk about when she was about 4 or 5, she wanted some cookies and her mom wouldn't let her have it. So she waited till her mom went outside. She locked the door. She went, got the cookie jar, went to the window, got her mom's attention and ate the cookies right in front of her.
Oh, yeah.
So cookies are a good thing, right? But so we have this clear cookie jar, and so we've all been told to write, I don't know if you, so we all write down our daily gratitudes and affirmations and all of that stuff. But when you take this and you shut this and you put it up on a shelf, it's out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, this cookie jar is clear, right? So we start them, and mine is over there on my shelf, and it's full. Every time I get a card from a student or a patient or whatever else, it's full. And then you start this cookie jar, and it sits on your desk. I've got some students and people that I know, and they carry it with them. And so here you have this visual, you set on your desk right in front of you. You have a visual reminder of these are the good things in your life, right? And so when you're at that point, open it up and lay the cookies out in front of you. Reminds you who you are. I mean, it's a simple, tangible, hands-on concept, right?
Right.
It's not difficult, but when you walk away, and so in my training and stuff, that's one of the concepts we discuss, that we talk about. The other concepts that we talk about is, Travis Howes talks about, if you've listened to him,
He's awesome.
he talks about who's the last guy they call before they commit suicide. You don't talk to your wife, you don't talk to your family, they call your partner, right?
Right.
Well, or somebody in that, that deal. There's a concept called the Foxhole mentality, the Foxhole Principle. And you can take it from two sides. And I told you, one is, if you want to take it from the practical, 1943 Army Manual says the 3-man foxhole is the most defendable foxhole, because one person's on guard, one's resting, the other one can be doing maintenance, but it's hardest to overtake 3-man fighting position.
Okay.
But if you want to take it from a biblical sense, and this goes back to what Eric and them talk about, a rope team. So when you're in the mountains and you fall on a mountain, your rope team is who catches you, right?
Right.
Well, first you got to create the rope, right? So when you create a rope, a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. 3 or better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. That's Ecclesiastes 4:12.
Okay. I like
So King Solomon, that one of the greatest, wisest kings ever. So what we're doing, that 3-man, you think about that concept. So you create this rope.
Right.
That builds, you got to build the rope first before you can build a rope team, And so who are the 2 people they're you. And, I talked about that Rolodex, but you got to build that core team, that core rope. And so who are the 2 people? They could be your partner. Okay. There's that new movie called Code Red. If you haven't seen it, it's funny as hell.
Come on. What
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You froze for a second. Let me turn my camera off there.
Yeah. Code Red, if you get a chance to watch it, it's funny. And they talk about the guys like, I got friends. And he's like, no, you don't. You don't have any friends. And he's like, I'm your only friend. And he's like, man, I'm your best friend. Talk about his partner.
Right.
And it's go out any EMS aspect. But who are those people you're going to call? Who's that guy you're going to call? And are you make sure that, Travis House says, when that guy calls, you better answer the phone, because you ought to know your partner well enough to know they're struggling. And so you have those 2 concepts. Okay. So who are the 2 guys you're going to call? Who are your 2 buddies in your foxhole? And one of the things that we do, you can see the foxhole, right?
Yes, sir.
And so we have them actually in the class send a postcard. Now, if you're under the age of 35, most people have never written a postcard. So we have to teach them how to do it. But we have this, and that's not trying to be
No,
derogatory to your listeners who are under the age
no,
of 35. But
I just find it funny because I remember sending postcards back in school, and we had the old ways of, hey, this guy's overseas, send him a postcard, let him feel welcome back home, and
yeah,
it's funny you said that because I feel old as dirt right now that you said it that way.
yeah. And so if you send somebody a text or an email, yeah, great. Well, texts get lost, emails get lost. But the aspect, and you think about it, if somebody sends you a letter or a postcard or you get a Christmas card or you kind of keep that stuff, right? We still keep stuff that people took time to do something, right? They took that sentimental time. Well, here we are. And you send this to somebody and say, hey, it says, will you be in my foxhole? And then you kind of say, hey, I'm doing this class or I'm training or whatever. And, make sure we tell them, make sure you put the reciprocal part in this and, send it to your buddy. And what happens is that now this is an actual act. I'm taking a physical active participation in my mental health.
Right.
And so I'm sending it out. Well, now you're on the receiving end of this. Well, one, you're going to keep that. Two, you're going to go call your buddy up and say, what the hell is this thing you just sent me? What is this foxhole bullshit, right?
Right.
And now I've created a what? I've started a second conversation. I'm reached out to not just one person, but three people.
Yeah, three. Okay, yeah.
True. Two more. So I got three. So now I've created this deal, and hopefully I've created something between three people. And that those are the people that you're going to call. Those are the people who are going to show up with the shovel.
Right.
Right. Like in the movie, in my class, I show it's from The Town. It's, Ben Affleck and Jeremy Renner, and he comes in, walks in, and he said, "I need you a favor. I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you what we're going to do, and you can never ask me about it again. But people are going to get hurt, right?" And all Jimmy Renner says, "Whose car are we going to take?"
Right.
So yeah. So what friends do you have are going to do that? And so that's some of the concepts that we talk about in the class and in training. We're hopefully that as time goes by and the more training we get and the more times I get out there and I talk about it, that we'll get some other stuff. And, one of the other last things here, we're running out of time. I know.
No, you're good.
Is that we talk about in the military, or we say take a knee, or, you're out hiking and you think you get lost and take a knee, stop, grab some water, let the lieutenant pull out his map because he's always probably lost. And you figure out where you're at in life. And, in mountaineering, they have these, if you've been out hiking, people pile up rocks called cairns.
Right.
And so those are points to map your way. Well, in life, one of the things we have them do is we ask you to write your values. We give them a big lesson, circle out your values. Well, we give them this, it's a blank card when you start out. And then we say, my life, Karen, right? And so then you start, and we have them write it out. And, family and friends is on my bottom, discipline, hard, harnessing adversity, adventure, resiliency, personality, forgiveness. The top one is be a good human.
I love it.
And so, and of course on the back is, remember, a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. And so, like, I carry this around. It's basically my bookmarker and my day planner. And so, that's the first 4 hours going over, and the cool thing about the training is that it was started out as the art of medicine.
Right.
But the course itself, then there's another 4 hours. The course itself The only thing that I have to train to change it, or let's start back. It's scalable. So if I'm teaching entry level paramedics or med school students or whatever in healthcare, it doesn't change between that mid level with guys like you and me who are looking for an exit strategy, right?
Right.
The course doesn't really change other than how I talk to you about it a little bit, how we approach while we're doing it. But it has lateral movement. And so now all I have to do is the very first hour of the very first class is change the statistics of what I'm talking about. And now we have the art of law enforcement.
Okay.
And we changed the cartoons in the book. Rob's a great, like I said, you can go to the back, Tales from the Back of the Bus and Tales from the Green Side. And you'll see Rob's cartoons. We've got to get some new updated stuff, but we're fixing to have some cartoon books coming out, I hope, by the first of the year to go along with the book, Tales from the ER or Tales from the Green Side. And I'm working on writing my next one, Tales from the ER, short stories. But so again, scalable. And then the next thing is we kind of found that if you want to do finance or you're an attorneys or your whatever group, high school students or graduate students or just students in general, or just, pharmacist, whatever you want me to come talk to you about, only thing I have to change is the statistics of suicide, depression, and whatnot. Not difficult, but the book itself doesn't change. The core concepts don't change.
I love that
because
awesome.
everybody needs a rope team.
Right.
Everybody needs a rope. Everybody needs a Karen and a roadmap to back to your last known point to reevaluate. Right?
Yes, sir.
None of that changes, and I'll be honest. I've been living this for a while. And it works. I know it works because back last March, my wife had has had a traumatic brain injury, and she has epilepsy, and something happened. We won't discuss but
right.
She didn't get her medicine in time, and she went into status epilepticus and wound up ventilated on a ventilator for 3 days in ICU for a week.
Damn.
Yeah. And so when they got her, and I went to an ER that I had worked at for several years, and I knew the physician, I knew the team, everybody, and they're like, Johnny, you know what we need to do? And I'm like, I know. Yeah. And for the first time since the 9th of May, 1996, I felt fucking helpless. And I had to walk out of that room and just sit in the floor and pray to God that, because that's what I do. That's what I did. Right.
Right.
But I couldn't do anything. Right. And so I had to rely on my tools. One, I had to rely on God. Two, I picked up the phone and I called a friend, and they were there within 15 minutes. And his wife, she went in and was in the ER room with my wife, where I just couldn't be, right. And that's selfish or whatever. I didn't need to see that. It's like I tell parents, they don't want to watch us when we, set a kid's arm. It's medieval, right? You don't want to watch that. And so, but I knew what was going on. And, later my wife was going through her records, and she's like, did you know I could have died, or I was really bad. I said, yes. She goes, but you didn't tell the kids, or you didn't tell my family? I said, no, not. Why not? I said, well, if they didn't realize that you were on a ventilator and you were that was that bad, then I didn't need to tell them. And so
Valid point.
I said, yeah. And I said, it just was. And so I used it, and I know it works. I know these things work.
Right, and that's awesome that you practice what you teach as well. That's a that way you can prove it as well, and you can actually correlate with your students and who you're teaching it to as well, because you know it works, so you can prove to them that it works, and it does help.
I've been doing it for a long time, but this is the first time that I've actually had to use it.
Gotcha.
Since I've written it.
Right, I gotcha.
And I've been going back to my bookmark. I've had to go backwards in the months since, because a lot of that brought back some old PTSD aspects.
Yes, sir.
The trauma response came back. And then since, we took off the month and we went to the Florida Keys for the summer and stayed down there and lived while she healed and whatnot. And I didn't realize how far out on the edge I was living.
Yes, sir.
Until I got down there, until I got away from the hospital, I got away from here and had to reset myself. So the tools work.
That's awesome.
Anyway, that's kind of, those are simple, and they're simple tools. And that's what I like about them.
Yes.
And they're tools that I can use, you can use, anybody can use. But anyway, and I'll talk about with anybody or whoever or whatever, the stuff is, we're still working on our website. We're redoing our website right now. It's johnnygilpen.com. Hopefully if you come back, I don't know, when will this come out, do you think?
I'm going to try to shoot for, let's see. Come on, calendar. Sorry. Let's see.
You're fine.
I'm going to try to shoot for the 11th of November, Veterans Day.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that'll be great. Give us time to get things set up and everything. Shoot me an email and I'll shoot you a copy of the book and a copy of both books.
Yes, sir.
The workbook and stuff, signed copies. But
I do have
a
question for you too, as well, or a few more questions.
Sure. Go ahead. Sure.
Go ahead. You teach mental fitness across veterans, responders, and clinicians. What's one drill listeners can start tonight that'll take less than 5 minutes, but actually works really well?
One, write down, figure out who those two people are you're going to call. First drill is to sit down and if you think once you figure out who you think they are, write down the characteristics of those two people and make sure that they are, they don't have to be family. They don't have to be friend, whoever they are, and write down the characteristics of each of those people. Because I've had people write them out and go, can I change because sometimes we write those people down thinking, oh, these would be great people, and they may not be.
Gotcha. Okay.
Second one would be, is to sit down and write out, at least find you a jar, a mason jar, whatever it is, something clear. It can be just a clear tea jar. I don't care what it is. Find you, if it's just a piece of paper, find you 3 index cards and write down 3 rocky moments in your life. The when, the where, the why, the who, what obstacles you overcame, and write down the haters.
Okay.
And do that. And then from now on, anytime something happens, you do something good. Sometimes it's just you got out of bed this morning. Sometimes you made it to work. Sometimes, hey, I worked out today. And then take that card. Tomorrow I worked out. Tomorrow I worked, whatever. I made it to work 3 days in a row. I didn't take a drink today. Me and my wife didn't argue. I told my wife I loved it. Whatever it is. And put
something
it where I can see it.
Yes, sir.
That's simple.
I love it. I love that. So, for the charge nurse, the medic supervisor, or the crew chief listening, what's the quickest way leaders accidentally increase burnout on their teams, and what should they do instead for this week?
They forget to tell their crews a burnout on themselves or burnouts on their crew.
Both, all the above.
They forget to tell their people they do a good job. We're quick to chew people's asses, but we forget that people need to hear they do good every day. At the end of the shift, say, hey, you did a good job. Thanks for being here. And when somebody comes in, just say, hey, thanks for showing up today, man. And a smiling face. And as far as us burnout, I'm going to be honest. I'm 50. When I don't work out, and as we get older, you don't think, EMS nurse, we are in the worst shape of our lives.
Oh, yeah.
And that is our biggest problem with burnout, is our health.
Yes, sir.
Our mental health. We do not find a way to let off the pressure, whether you're going to the range, whether you get out and work out, you lift. If you want to play damn video games, read a book, create a safe space but whatever you do, my thing is get outside.
Yes, sir.
Nature is, the best thing. You got to find a way to get away from the damn job.
What's that old saying? Nature is the best medicine.
We carry the job on our shoulders. We carry it with us everywhere we go, because so many of us, we are the job is us, and we are the job.
Yes, sir. 100%.
And you got to go fishing. And I'm not telling you to catching. I'm telling you fishing. I go fishing sometimes, and my wife said, what are you fishing? What kind of bait? And I said, I'm not. You don't have anything on your hook? Nope. I didn't say I was catching. I said I was going fishing.
Right.
Just get away.
Just for your mental break.
Get in a car and go drive.
Yeah. Rock out to some music.
Turn up. Yeah. Turn off and just turn on. Yeah. Just drive. Put the windows down and go for a drive.
Yes, sir. So for the charge nurse, I'm sorry, I already asked that one. My bad. For the medic or nurse driving home in silence after a code, what would you want them to drop in their cookie jar right now?
That they made it home to their family. That they made it home. Our job at the end of the day, no matter what. Because we're a warrior. The art of medicine, it's a warrior's profession, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what I want you to walk away from, is that you are a warrior. And a lot of people in the healthcare profession do not believe that they are a warrior. We put our lives on the line every day, whether you are a nurse, a charge nurse, or an EMS. We don't think about that, but every day we show up, medics get shot, you get in a car wreck, people walk in, you could catch over 80,000 healthcare workers died from COVID. Your life is on the line.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was that high.
Yeah, between 80 and 115,000. That's what they in the first 18 months.
Wow,
is the stats from the WHO. You can look it up; it's out there.
Shit. No wonder they forced us to get the shots.
The deal is that you are a warrior, and the deal is that two things make you a warrior. One is risking your life, putting your life on the line. Two is in the service of others, whether that's your community, your family, whatever.
Right.
Your job at the end of the day, no matter what you do, is to come home safe to your family, sometimes your family is just your damn cat and your dog, right?
Right. Or hell, even your goldfish.
Even your goldfish, right? And sometimes just making it home is enough. Sometimes you got up and you went to work and you made it home is enough.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes I come home and I told my wife, I was nice today. When that person said something to me, I was nice. My boss tells me, hey, remember, this is a pediatric ER. It's not the military. It's not the adult ER. It's not the ambulance, and so people don't quite understand that. So can you tone your military self down just a little bit? I'll try. I was nice today.
It's a
But
win.
It's a win. But the biggest win of the day is I made it home safe. I didn't die in a car wreck going to work or coming home. I have fallen asleep during COVID. I had long COVID, and I fell asleep coming home. I called there's a story, one of my stories, if you get a chance, on my Warhorse Fellow. It's the third story I wrote. It starts out with, honey, hi, babe. Honey, I wrecked the car. Hey, babe, stop. I wrecked the car. What? I said, I fell asleep and I wrecked the car. Are you okay? Yeah. I had the dogs with me. Dogs are okay. I'm okay. I totaled your car. Just making it home is enough sometimes.
And on that note of that too is, I know some people are probably thinking, your wife's probably mad at you or whatever, but at the same time, materials can be replaced. Lives can.
Yeah, she wasn't mad at me.
No,
we just paid off the car, but she was just happy that I was alive.
But you don't.
That's
exactly what I'm saying. Is materials can be replaced, lives can't.
Yeah, that's it.
Thing, and that I was reading on some of the things you say is in your classes. You tell a lot of people that you still belong here. You say that to the veterans, the medics, the students, and the folks planning an exit. What does that actually look like on a Tuesday at 3 a.m.?
What's that look like on Tuesday and at 3 a.m.? You still belong here? Because you still belong here. We need you. If you're still here, God, there's a reason God wants you here. I don't know. Sometimes, I don't know why I'm still here. Obviously, I've had a turkey buzzard fly up and hit me one time on my motorcycle.
Wow.
And I got up, I looked up and I said, all right, God, obviously my radio is not attuned to the appropriate radio station. I don't know. I don't know why, and I can't tell you why, but you are meant to be here. The world is a better place with us in here. I had to question that sometimes myself, but we are meant to be here. And if you have a question, ask somebody else, because sometimes we can't see past our 3-foot circle. But I promise you, there is somebody who has a 20,000-foot view of your life.
That is powerful, and I love that. Like you said, the world needs everybody that's here. If it's not your time, it's not your time. Don't make it before your time.
Yeah. I'm going to go if I'm going out, somebody else is going to take me out. I'm not going to do it for them.
Yes, sir. Don't make it easy.
I'm not going to quit. You're going to fire me. Yeah. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction, right?
Right.
So if you're going to fire me, but I'm not quitting today.
I love it.
So have that same mentality. All right, God, you want me? Fine. Take me. Devil want me? Take me. But I ain't quitting.
Go down with the fight.
Yeah. If I'm going down, I'm going down. I'm not going to have any. If I'm not going to go down without, I'm using every bullet knife, and I'm going down, and I'm taking them with me. Right.
Right. Yes, sir.
Same mentality. Think about it like that. Say, all right, God, if you want me, come. The devil wants me, come take me. But I ain't quitting.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm not going to quit. You want to think about it like this. All right, God, if you're done with me in this life, then fire me.
Right.
But I'm not quitting the job.
Perfect.
David Goggins talks about it. He wants to be up there. The life. I don't want to get up there and say, well, you were supposed to do this. You're supposed to do this. Supposed to do this. When he looks at your tally, I want to be up there and go, man, I never saw that coming.
Right.
I never saw Johnnie Gilpen being a PA. I never saw Johnnie Gilpen being on a podcast. I never saw Johnnie Gilpen being an author. I knew Johnny was going to be a paramedic, and I knew he was going to be a combat medic, but I never saw this other shit coming. I don't know where that came from.
Yes, sir.
That's my thought process in it.
And I love
it. And at that, I've got to get headed to work.
Yes, sir. I was going to close it out here in a second as well. So that was Johnnie Gilpen, corpsman, PA, writer, teacher, proof that the uniform might change, but the mission doesn't. Protect people and remind them they still belong. Johnny, where can folks connect with you and find out more about your work?
JohnnyGilpen.com.
All right, copy that. And I always like to give guests the last word. What's one thing you want listeners to carry into their next shift?
Just remember we're more than a job, and just our job is to make it home to our family, no matter what. That's at the end of the shift. Make it home. That's what matters. It's not about whether we make it to the top of the mountain. It's making sure that we make it home.
That's one hell of a closing line, and I appreciate your time and your efforts.
If you think it's too heavy to say it anyway. It beats a eulogy. You don't have to apologize for surviving however you can. You're not the reason things are heavy, you're the reason they're still moving. Need support right now? Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. You're not alone, not in this job, not in this fight. Want to share your story or connect? Visit critical-run.com or message the Facebook page Dispatched and Dysfunctional. We're building this for you, for them, for all of us.